All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So it's been a little bit more than 24 hours since the field of 68 was announced for this year's NCAA tournament. And as there are always going to be teams who feel that they should have been included, do the Auburn Tigers have a legit argument? The past several weeks, okay, we've seen former Auburn head basketball coach Bruce Pearl lobbying on television. Of course, he's a TV analyst now on multiple networks, but he's been lobbying for the Tigers to make the tournament, as well as the current head coach for Auburn, Bruce Pearl's son Steven. But all of that lobbying did not matter to the selection committee, who said thanks, but no thanks to War Eagle. Now, the Tigers' argument stands on the fact that they faced one of the nation's toughest basketball schedules, which they did. However, you are what your record says that you are. And at the end of the day, Auburn is basically a 500 team. The Tigers finished the season with a mark of 17-16, while they went 7-11 within the SEC, which is good enough to finish 12th in that 16-team league. Now, Auburn legitimately can hang their hat on the fact that they beat the defending national champions Florida Gators in Gainesville. They also beat the SEC tournament champions in the Arkansas Razorbacks by 22 points, and the Tigers also beat the Big East champs in the St. John's Red Storm. But at the end of the day, 16 losses is still 16 losses, no matter how you try to slice this thing. Now, yes, in their non-conference, Auburn played Houston, Purdue, and Arizona. Okay. And in the case of those teams, we just saw Arizona win the Big 12, Purdue won the Big 10. And in the case of Houston, they got to the Big 12 championship game where, of course, they lost to Arizona. But Auburn lost to all of those teams. And in the case of their games against Arizona and Purdue, they were blown out. Okay. They lost both of those games by 30 points or close to it. All right. Now, nobody is saying that the SEC is not a tough basketball conference, because it is. We just saw the SEC send 10 teams to the NCAA tournament, 14 teams last year. But a team like Auburn should just not be rewarded because of who they play. It should be more about who you beat. Okay. And however, all of this, because again, people are getting on the case of Bruce Pearl and Stephen Pearl. I totally get it. But all of this, in my opinion, is really not the fault of theirs or Auburn as a whole, as I'm going to put some of the blame right here on the selection committee. Why? Because we saw the selection committee open Pandora's box last year when they decided to let four teams from the SEC get into the NCAA tournament, in spite of the fact that they had losing conference records. And in the case of Texas and Oklahoma last year, they got in with conference records of 6-12. And of course, both of those teams would go on to be one and done in the NCAA tournament. Again, 6-12 in conference play is clearly showing to me that you should not be rewarded, or you got rewarded just for who you played as opposed to who you beat. So, of course, Auburn, was an NCAA tournament team last year. We saw them get to the Final Four. I'm sure they probably sat back and looked at that and said, well, wait a minute. You let these sub 500 teams from the SEC get in last year. Why not us right now? With all of that said, okay, to me, I still think part of it is, a little bit of entitlement from Auburn, being that they made the Final Four last year. But at the end of the day, last year is last year. A lot of the rosters changed, of course, coaching changed, you name it. But nonetheless, looking at this season, Auburn still had 33 opportunities to prove that they should be a tournament team, and they failed in 16 of those opportunities. The Tigers finished the regular season, okay, by losing 9 out of their last 12. That's not the way that you want to get things done if you're trying to impress the committee. And included in those losses, they lost to two of the worst teams in the SEC. They lost to Ole Miss and they lost to Mississippi State. That ain't going to get it done. Now, To me, I feel like Auburn's argument is the equivalent of a five-loss SEC team in football clamoring that they should be included in the 12-team college football playoff. This is basically what it is. Now, I get it that it's Stephen Pearl's job to lobby for his team, but within reason. Okay. And the fact to me that the committee did leave Auburn out while we're having a pair of teams get in from the MAC this year, two teams from the Atlantic 10 and then three from the West Coast Conference. I really feel that college basketball overall won out this year because we're not seeing the NCAA tournament, unlike the college football playoff, just basically be the exclusive province, if you will, to the power leagues. So, with all of that said, some people are going to say, about Auburn's gripe and ask, well, you know what? Should the NCAA tournament be expanded again? Absolutely not. I think where we're at is a beautiful place because you look at the last week or so with the conference tournaments and the intensity, especially on some of those conferences where they're one big leagues. Those kids left it all out there. There was a lot to play for in the bigger conferences as well. The SEC tournament, okay, fight, scrapping, and clawing, basically. The Big 12, the Big East, the Big 10, you name it. We can go right down the list. So I think keeping the NCAA tournament where it is at 68 is fine. We do not need to tinker with the sauce, and we don't need to water this thing down. The bottom line is um, teams like Auburn have to go out there and take care of their business. Now, if the Tigers were 22-11 as opposed to being 17-16, maybe or maybe even if they were able to have had an Ole Miss type run at the SEC tournament this year. Remember, Ole Miss basically had to win the SEC tournament to get into the field at 68. They fell short, okay, because they came in with a losing record, but we still saw the Rebels get to the semifinals of the SEC tournament, and there they fell to Arkansas in overtime. Maybe if Auburn had a run like that, we're talking about things differently for them right now. And again, Auburn went into the SEC tournament knowing that they were a bubble team, knowing that they needed to take care of their business. They beat Mississippi State in round number one, but then they lost to Tennessee in round two. And remember, they had a lead in that game for the bulk of that game before things came apart for them late in the second half. And okay, that was Thursday. We still had 3 days worth of conference tournaments for teams to go out there and pad their resume. And of course, you don't want to be a bubble team any year where, anything could happen in championship week. Okay, again, like I said before, what would have happened if Miami of Ohio did not win the MAC tournament? And of course, we saw what happened. Or, St. Louis not being able to win the A10 tournament. That opened up another bid. We can go right down the list for several conferences like that. So again, if you're Auburn, you had the opportunity to take care of your business and you didn't. And my thing is this, okay, we're hearing and we've heard from Stephen Pearl, we heard from Bruce Pearl talking about why Auburn should have been a tournament team and the schedule, this, that, and the third. Where was the accountability? Because again, you lost 16 games, and honestly, I would have been. Like I feel like that energy should have been better used to have this team better prepared to go out there and play in the SEC tournament, as opposed to just saying, well, you know what, we played a tough schedule, this, that, and the third. That's good enough because clearly it wasn't. Okay, so with all of that said, will this perceived snub, if you will, for Auburn help to motivate them going forward? And honestly, I feel like if there needed to be any motivation for Auburn, it probably started already because I will give credit where credit is due. Auburn has accepted a bid to the NIT, and that's important for me because a lot of people, if it's NCAA tournament or bust, kind of like it is in the world of college football. You don't make the playoff, we really don't care about going to a bowl game now. But nonetheless, Auburn's going to use that practice time. Hopefully, for their sake, they're able to get some of these kids to return to the school for next season and play some more ball. But nonetheless, you get more reps, you get more game reps against a Division One team, and let's see if Auburn is going to be able to make the most of this opportunity, if you will, and use it as motivation going forward. And I think it's not just about Auburn, okay, because to their credit, they did schedule, a very hard non-conference schedule. Okay, and it didn't work out for them in some of those games. I get it. But at the end of the day, maybe this is going to motivate them to take care of their business a little bit more. And again, this was a trying year for Auburn because remember, it wasn't until very, very close to the start of this college basketball season that Bruce Pearl made the decision to step down, and he left this program in limbo. 17 and 16 so far in year one under Stephen Pearl. Let's see if he could build off of that and go forward. And let's see if he can use this as motivation to build the Auburn program in his image going forward. But nonetheless, the committee got it right, folks. Okay, the bottom line is Auburn did not deserve to be a tournament team. I know people griped. Some people were happy that Miami of Ohio got in. Some people weren't. But again, 31 and 1 is 31 and 1. And I think it would have looked very ridiculous for the committee to not put a ranked team, a team that finished the regular season ranked, a team that finished the regular season undefeated into the field of 68. I'm not a fan of Miami of Ohio having to go to Dayton for the first four, but nonetheless, that's neither here nor there. But one thing we do know, Auburn is not in the field of 68, and the bottom line is they didn't deserve to be there. It's not just about who you play, it's about who you beat. And at this point, let's just say for the sake of argument that the committee did decide to give Auburn a bid for the tournament. Let's say if Auburn was one and done, we're talking about a team that finished from a power conference with a record of 17 and 17. This is not a team that just caught fire at the end of the season, won their conference tournament, and got in. Absolutely not. The Tigers had their fair share of opportunities and then some. They did not take care of their business. The NCAA tournament is about who you beat. It's not a participation trophy as far as, well, you know what? We played this team, we played that team, don't forget about us, this, that, and the third. The committee got it right. And going forward, Auburn simply has to be better. And on top of that, maybe this could be an example to other teams from power conferences as well. Go out there and take care of your business and not just worry about who you play on your schedule. It should be more about who you beat. So let's see if this motivates Auburn going forward. Let's see also if other teams can use this as an example as well to take care of their business. But nonetheless, like I said before, the committee got it right. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw in this podcast, you know what to do, folks. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it will be my pleasure to do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, definitely be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.